Look, my point is, if I need to figure out how to do something, I'm confident that I can figure out how to do it. If I can't figure out how to do something, I'm humble enough to be able to ask for help. If I can't ask for help, then I'm confident that I can figure out a way to do something. If I can't figure out a way to do something, then I might have to keep thinking about it. I know I can use... Gosh, it's bright. I know I can use a small tub with holes in it and some kind of minced bait, maybe worms or something, peanut butter worms mixed together to catch minnows. And I can use the minnows to feed Blanky if we were in a survival situation. My point is, throughout all of the things I talk about, the core of the onion, the core of the concept onion is this: I need to be able to do something and investigate it indefinitely. Drawing is that thing, not painting necessarily. Painting is a luxury, a experimental luxury. Drawing is an experimental need. It didn't always register to me as an experimental need, but it is now because of the amount of energy that I've put into manifesting meaning out of the practice. Okay, so how do you generate meaning? Reality is always going to be at least two real objects. Your brain is registering things as real or not. There's always going to be at least two real objects. That's my theory. I derived my theory about this from Hofstadter, Douglas Hofstadter, and Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant said that reality is the a priori perception through the necessary constraints, structural constraints, which are space and time. And then Hofstadter said that reality is analogy. That analogy is the core of cognition for you, that you are always going to be comparing things. And I'm saying that reality itself to a person is always going to be at least two real objects, mainly that you, the user, are always a primary object. Anything out of your perception is going to be a non-object. Obvious exceptions apply, obviously. If you do not have sight, if you do not have your optic nerve intact, if you are born without an optic nerve intact, then you are not going to be perceiving anything. That is a difficult idea to grasp for somebody who has eyes. If I did not have eyes, then it would be a different story and I'd be telling you something else. So, meaning is the comparative structure that you apply as a person between two things that you try to understand. The difference between Kant and people who are more annoying than Kant is that Kant said it doesn't matter if reality is really out there or not, because things like rocket ships go into space and hypodermic needles work really well at giving you medicine that seems to do things. Things seem to continue to do things, so there's not going to be a whole lot of point in you deciding whether or not water is wet when there are people in the world who do not have water to drink. So, my idea is this. Here's more core of the onion. This is the super core of the onion. The amount of meaning that you get out of something, sometimes, obvious exceptions apply obviously, depends on the amount of energy that you put into trying to understand it. That means that your arena where you are trying to develop meaning has to be loose enough, has to be malleable enough for you to sort of bend it to your will. Drawing is a kind of thing that is very cheaply and affordably and economically bent to one's will. You do not need a lot of expensive things to draw. You can draw in the sand, you can draw with charcoal. I'm pretty sure that I will always be able to find a way to draw. It's like the difference between being a record head in a world of CD people. If you don't know how to get CDs or records, it's going to be hard to be a record head in a world full of CDs. I'm living in a world full of people who constantly make stuff on paper. It's easy for me to flip a page over and find something to draw on. It's almost impossible to go a day without running into a pen on the ground, a receipt, a note card, a sticky note, a flyer with a blank back or some area on it where you can draw. Being a kinesthetic person means that it is easy for me to understand my environment by manifesting in some kind of neutral way upon aspects of that environment. It's not because the drawing itself is meaningful, it is because the drawing process is a kind of break from thinking. It's a break from thinking where I am allowed to manifest experimental forms of visual wills, visual experimental aesthetics onto something as a break from dealing with the world, dealing with going to work, dealing with the social apparatus that I find myself inside of all the time. Maybe if I wasn't inside of a social, structural, societal, civilized structure, I wouldn't be drawing all the time. But I need a break, and that's what helps me do it. All right, thank you.